Apex Legends came out a few weeks ago, and it's a really good game. It's very fun, it's very fast paced, it shows what a battle royale can and should be. And it's made by Respawn Entertainment, and they've pumped out quality games before, and I expected no less of them, and they delivered what is to be expected from such a pristine community. However, when viewing the game, when playing the game, there's something that I personally feel is missing from the game. And this isn't from the developer's standfront, but from my personal standfront. And that is, there's a lack of movement in this game. Now, let's say that you're playing on PC, and this is 5 years ago. 5 years from when this video was created in 2014. Let's say that you're on Xbox or PC like I was talking about. Two of the biggest shooter games that were out there at the time were Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 3, and Halo Reach. And these games were titans. They were dominant forces in the FPS genre, and they were great games. They are still reminisced and played today, and still have loyal fan bases and strong communities that still talk about the game. But let's say you wanted something with a little more movement. Let's say you wanted to be able to move on the Y and Z axis as freely as you could on the X axis, without having to get into a vehicle like you would have to in Halo Reach. Well, in 2014 there weren't a lot of games like that. You had a game like Warframe, which had a very unique, and still does have a very unique movement system, but that game's very PvE. I want to find a game that is very PvP centered. Well, okay, let's look around. I found this really cool game. It's called Tribes Ascend. Alright, that's cool. I can detach myself from friction and move at high speeds. The only problem with this game is that the people who are playing it have been playing it for 2 years, and they are absolute monsters. They're deities of this game. They know how to move at ludicrous speed, and I will not be able to hit their level of movement while still being able to challenge them in a form that they would be challenging to me. It's impossible for me to meet their skill level fast enough to enjoy myself and for them to have an enjoying, challenging experience. So as it stands, there are two options for me. I can either choose to play a game that has demigods of movement in it, where I will never be able to match their movement while still enjoying myself. Not for a while at least, and I'm looking for something that I can pick up and put down at my leisure. Or I can play a game that has a very basic movement style that works but leaves me wanting something more.
Dropping now. Stand by for titanfall.
Well, now that I think about it, there was this game called Titanfall, and it came out March 11th of 2014. So happy birthday, Squirt. You're 5 years old, and I am going on an age I don't want to say on YouTube. Because we both share the same birthday, I feel like it's even more special for me to talk about this game, and why it's probably one of the best games I've ever played, and why, to this day, it's still my favorite game. This game has crazy movement. Like, anything that is imaginable can be done. You can move on the X, Y, Z axis unhindered. The only thing you have to do is figure out how you're gonna do it. Not if you can, but how. And that's the coolest thing about this game. You want to jump around and jump on the Titans and shoot them in the back of the head? Easy. Done. You want to jump off because the pilot's hopping out? Then kill him? Consider it done. You want to jump off of a wall because the Titan's shooting at you, only to jump onto the back of that Titan and shoot it? Done. Oh, look at that. The Titan popped the smoke. Guess I'll jump off of it and stand on a wall for a couple seconds. Oh look, the smoke's starting to disappear. Let me jump back onto the same exact Titan after jumping off of it onto a wall only to shoot it again and destroy it. The movement in this game is infinite, and there's no way to predict what your enemy's gonna do. Not to mention that along with the pilot's movement, we still have the Titan's movement where they can dash laterally anywhere between 1 to 3 charges, and combine that with the ability to jump in and out of your Titan, it gives an even more complex system of movement that lets you jump into your Titan from off of a wall to dash, and jump out of it to hop onto an enemy Titan, then to run inside, do something, kill a pilot in there, run back out and jump back into your Titan. The movement in this game is so infinite, it's insane. What I'm trying to get at here is that the movement's so fluid it might as well be water. The only way to tell the difference between a pro player and a new player is the way that they traverse about the map and how easy and swift it is. And this isn't how I describe Tribes Ascend, where there's gods at this game and then there's me. No, in this game people traverse in different ways, shapes and forms, and each way is a challenge to fight. And even a new player can be challenging to a veteran if they've developed their own special way of wall running and holding onto walls and shooting at people while on these walls. It's an experience that changes with each player, because each player forms their own way. They write their own way to run and jump and shoot. And it's an interesting way to see the combinations of guns and styles of movement and tactical abilities all at once. Do you want to have a aggressive playstyle with a shotgun and be able to see through walls? Done. Easy. You want to do the same thing but with an SMG? You can do that. There's a perk that lets you run and shoot at the same time, which no other class can do, but with SMG it's possible. On the opposite end of the spectrum, do you want to sit back and snipe people while they're trying to get from point A to point B as quickly as possible? Consider it done. And anything in between is possible too, and it's amazing what this game can do by just simply letting you run on walls. Also, there's something that I can genuinely say is completely unique to Titanfall, and Titanfall 2 in fact, and that's called the epilogue. So let's say you're playing and you win. The epilogue comes through and your objective now is to eliminate the enemy pilots and destroy the dropship before they escape. Say you lose? Well, now you have to escape before the enemies kill you and before they destroy your dropship or your dropship abandons you. And why it's such a vicious game of cat and mouse is because when you die, you're dead. You don't get to respawn. And the thing about this is it gives a rush that I can only describe as a battle royale player feels when they're one of the last few alive. That rush of, I'm so close, I can leave, but there's someone who knows where I need to go. They know that the zone's this way, or they know that the dropship's here, and they have their guns pointed there waiting for me. I have to figure out how I'm gonna escape without dying. So, with all that I've shown you, I'm sure that you're probably wondering why the game isn't talked about anymore. With mechanics that are so fun to play, a game that still isn't bad looking after 5 years, that runs and plays like your modern day shooter, why is it forgotten? There have been games that have really good mechanics and decent graphics for their times that have gone on for about 10 years. Well, the thing is Titanfall was ahead of its time in the worst way possible. Back in 2014, almost every AAA game had a storyline, a single player storyline. And it was basically a must-have at this point in time. If you didn't have a single player storyline, then you're losing out on a giant majority of people who would buy your game simply to play the storyline and nothing else. Like, at this point in time, there were solid storylines that came out, like Skyrim and Destiny. People would play those games simply because there was a story, and one that was easy to traverse. Titanfall didn't have that. You see, although Titanfall does have a campaign, it's strictly multiplayer. And not in the way that Destiny was, where you could squad up with your friends and play multiplayer and you were always in some way, shape, or form online. Titanfall's story was played through playing multiplayer games, and you couldn't experience it any other way. Titanfall was a solely online experience, and in 2014, that was a terrible idea. Basically, this entire video, I've just been trying to express that if Titanfall were to have released now, say Titanfall were to release in the place of Apex, and there wasn't a battle royale craze like there is right now, Titanfall would have done so much better, and it would have lasted 5 years, unlike how it is now. It's in a state of decay where people abuse it, where there's hackers that crash the game just for fun, and EA and Respawn won't do anything about it simply because the game's old and unplayed. So it's really sad to see that my favorite game is being abused in the way that it is. But I really do want to hear what you guys have to say about this, what you guys think, if I'm in the wrong here in some of the decisions or opinions I have, if you have something that's worth arguing with, if you want to disagree with me. I'd love to hear that. I'd love to hear your opinions, so please just let me know what you think.